Hey guys, this is Carl again, this time with the video on the hardware that I have for my quadcopter. So let's just start off with the main piece of hardware I got, which was an actual kit from Hobby King. I cheated a little. I didn't buy all of these parts separately. What I did was I bought what they call a Hobby King spec FPV 250 ARF combo kit. So the cool thing about this kit is it basically included just about everything you need to get flying. It includes a frame, it includes motors, propellers, a battery. The only thing it doesn't include is a flight controller and a receiver, which are pretty easy to pick out. So what I thought was really cool about it is that everything is already set up for you to just put together and start flying. All the holes are drilled, all the parts are there, all the bolts are there, which I thought was great until I got the package in the mail. It was extremely confusing to me because usually when you buy a kit, like a Lego kit or something, you expect instructions, and the only instructions I received was this one sheet that lists the parts that it comes with and has a couple pictures. So it took me quite a while to figure out where the 16 motor screws I needed were and what they looked like, because the picture wasn't accurate. I actually found the screws in a bag of parts that was supposed to be for the gimbal, but whatever. So let's move on to the frame that was included with that kit. This is actually a nice frame, but as you can see, I broke it. This seems to be a big trend with me. I've broken this frame quite a few times, and I've broken the next frame I got. So this one's great because it's lightweight. It has tons of holes for you to zip tie stuff to. And again, it has everything set up exactly how you need it. It's got a nice box in the middle for the flight controller and slots so that the screws line up easily. It's got a little platform that you can put your receiver on, and it also comes with a gimbal, which I never installed, but if you guys are into FPV, this is the perfect kit to start with. So once I broke the frame, of course I was disappointed, but I managed to super glue it back together with some extra material like toothpicks, and it worked for a little while. So if you break this frame, easy fix. So this is what it looks like now. I actually ended up making a frame out of plywood, which has worked out fairly well, but of course I've already broken it 3 times, so maybe I'm just a bad pilot, but you guys will find out for yourselves when you start flying. So I ended up ordering the KK 2.0 board, which I thought was great because you don't actually have to do that much to get it flying, but one thing you absolutely have to do, which stumped me for a very long time, was calibrating the ESCs. This thing never ever took off. It only flipped over until I figured out that you had to calibrate the ESCs. This control board also failed to come with a manual, but you can Google it and it's very easy to figure out how to do. You really just hold buttons 1 and 4 while plugging in the battery. So the next bit of hardware that was included, next 2 pieces, were the motors and the motor controllers. It's nice that they included them because I honestly had no idea what kind of motors to pick. There are guides and calculators for that on the internet though. So if you really had to, you could pick. I mean, it's not that hard. You just plug in, I think, some wanted features, you know, like a certain thrust or maybe a certain kind of prop you want to use with it. But in this case, it's already matched to the size of quadcopter and price range. I mean, so the motors are rated in terms of RPM per volt, so they run at the right speed for a flying vehicle. The motor controllers are actually a lot fancier than I thought they were originally, mainly because they're flashed with a firmware that allows them to update at a higher speed than normal. because if they were left as is, and as is would mean optimized for planes or helicopters, they wouldn't update fast enough in order to compensate for all the updated commands to keep this thing level. So they also are sized for the motors. They're 12 amps. The motors draw a little less than that peak current. I managed to get a battery voltage meter from my friend, and I really like this model because not only does it beep to tell you when your batteries have reached a set point, it also displays the voltage on a little screen, which I think is phenomenal. It beats having to grab a multimeter and check each cell individually when you want to see the voltage of each cell. And I actually bought another voltage meter just in case I couldn't get this one from my friend, and it just beeps and you have to solder it in. I like this also because you can just plug in the balance connector of the battery to it. Moving on to the receiver and transmitter set. So, as this was my first foray into the world of flying RC, I picked a very cheap set. I picked the Hobby King HK-T4A, which is very, very featureless. It is the most bare bones radio you can get. I picked it over the slightly more expensive model because it had the reversing switches. I wasn't sure if they would come in handy, but they actually did, so I'm glad I got this model. I actually did have one problem with this, however. One of the trim tabs wasn't functioning correctly because it's attached to a second plate internally and they're melted together, but this melt had failed, so even though I moved the trim tab, it didn't actually trim it correctly, so my quad kept tilting when I didn't want it to. Other than that, it's pretty great. I mean, you put in all these AA's and it lasts just about forever. I haven't changed these out yet, and these aren't even a fresh set. I've been using these in another model set. So this is only good for one model, however. You can pay a little more, well actually a lot more, for a different transmitter that supports other models. But I mean, this one does the job, so I'm happy with it. It took me a while to figure out what ports to plug in where, and my friend actually had to figure that out for me. He never told me how he did it, but it's pretty simple. You just look up what's what on the controller compared to what's listed in the manual. And you can find a manual for this KK controller, but it's very hard to find, which was absolutely annoying. So moving on to batteries. Hobby King graciously includes one with the kit, and I bought just 2 more of them. Simple, just charge them up, swap them out. I didn't want to deal with soldering on a different connector or dealing with the weight difference. So it's a nice 1 amp hour battery, rated for 30C discharge, so it's pretty great. I mean, I can charge it pretty fast too. I haven't had an issue with them at all. Definitely would recommend. On the other hand, I bought this charger, the HK-E4. I don't know if it's just my model of this, but it did not work at all for me. I liked it because I could charge at 4.5C. I didn't want to have to wait 2 hours just to charge up one of these batteries, but it never actually really charged my batteries. I only got this to charge one of my batteries one time, and every single other time it just sat there for an hour and started beeping later to tell me that it was charged. So buy it at your own risk, I guess. I'm not recommending it. So what I had to do is I had to borrow the charger that we have at school for lithium polymer batteries, the IMAX B6AC dual power, which I love because you can plug this into the wall. You don't have to mess around with separate power supplies. Plug straight into the wall. It's great. And the other awesome thing about this is you can charge it up to 5 amps with just about any battery chemistry that you can think of. Lead acid, lipo, nickel metal, anything. It's crazy. I love it, and it's It's made out of this nice aluminum extrusion, so it's pretty tough. I mean, I wouldn't test it, but I bet you could toss this around and it would still be fine. This is the genuine model. Hobby King has two models, a fake and a genuine. You spend just a little bit more for this one, and I would recommend it just in case. I mean, as you can see, I've already had issues with Hobby King quality. So, in terms of frames, so I don't want to scare you off of the nylon frame, because it worked for me. And maybe I just pushed it a little too hard. I don't think there are any manufacturing defects in it. So as long as you treat your stuff very gently, you'll be fine with it. I just happened to have the skills to make this kind of stuff, so I wasn't too worried when I broke it, because I could just make this new wooden frame, which has worked out fairly well for me. The other thing that you absolutely need to get when you're just starting out is props. Don't just buy one bag that has 4 propellers in it. You will go through them. You will shred them so quickly when you're just learning. Buy more than you think you'll ever need. I bought 2 extra packs and I tore right through them, mainly because I couldn't figure out how to get this thing set up and it kept crashing and tearing up propellers. But after I went through those, I bought 3 more packs with 4 propellers each. I bought 12 extra propellers. And orientation matters, so if you end up smashing one side a lot more than the other, you may run out of propellers faster than you can think, even though you bought a lot. So those 12 had lasted me a fairly long time. I still have maybe... Actually, I don't even have a complete pack left. This is pretty much my last set aside from 3 extras. So even if you think you're going to be good starting off, if you've had experience flying other stuff, I really recommend you buy extra propellers. And this comes with 3 bladed propellers originally, but these 2 bladed propellers work just fine. So all in all, if you were to buy just the basics to start you off with quadcopters, this is what I would recommend. Exactly everything I've listed. The total was like $220. So not cheap, but this will last you forever if you take care of it. And it's extremely upgradable. All the parts can be reused in different models, or even just expanded upon. You could turn it into an FPV racer, you could turn it into aerial footage collector, whatever you want. So, see you for now.